From Ticker, this is Black Belt Leader. Here's Karen Gately.
Welcome to Black Belt Leader. I'm Karen Gately, the founder of Corporate Dojo. On our show today, we're going to be exploring energy, and that is why energy matters to our ability to perform and be at our best. Our guests will be helping us to understand what are some of the key things that energize or drain human beings in the workplace, and how you as a leader can influence the impact that thinking and emotions have on people's energy reserves and ultimately behaviour. So we're excited to welcome back to the show, first of all, Warren Sen. Warren is the founder of Lexibium and is here to talk to us today about his experiences around influencing energy in the workplace. Welcome back to the show, Warren.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for being here again. I know you've got a wealth of experience to share in the space. If I could start by asking you just to share, Warren, why does, in your opinion, energy matter? So why is it something that leaders should be investing in understanding and managing?
It's a good question. Leaders wear a number of hats and we have a lot of roles that we have to play. And I think one of our key roles is to try and keep our teams and our people at a peak level of performance and reaching their potential. If we're talking about keeping people at their peak, helping them perform, then certainly how energized they feel is a critical component of this. Depending on how energized we feel, we can find ourselves in one of four modes of energy. And you've probably heard of these. And the four modes are survive, adapt, thrive, and recover. And no doubt, Karen, you've found yourself many Sunday mornings in recovery mode with low levels of energy, where you're really not particularly motivated at all. So it is very, very important in terms of managing peak performance. If I can add just one thing too, really interestingly, the best weapon we have is managing our thoughts. If we manage our thoughts, we have direct ability to manage our emotions, which feeds directly into our energy levels. And therefore, if we're going to help ourselves stay at that peak level of performance, it's really important we think slightly holistically. And what I mean by that is if you work on yourself at a physical level first, get enough sleep, get enough exercise, make sure you eat well, set that foundation up so that you then can work on your mind, attitudes, and thoughts. You'll then have a much more positive emotional state, which will feed directly into energy levels and your ability to perform.
Absolutely. So, again, in your experience, what do you observe happening to people's performance? Let's talk first of all about how people are when they are drained of energy.
So many times we're affected by what's happening on the outside world, and certainly getting through COVID, looking after your family, managing to do your job is really a critical component of that. And I think of those as negative affects or drainers. But often you create that energy from within in spite of what's happening around you. And that's why I circle back to that. The self-image you have, the messages you're giving yourself is the critical starting point of how energized you're going to be. So if that self-talk is negative, everything is much more difficult.
Yeah. And that in turn, in my experience, can be a big drainer on other people as well. I often ask workshop participants, what are some of the common ways people behave that cause you to feel drained? And it is that pessimism. It's that we can't do it. This is the way it's always been done. So whether it's resistance or fight or avoidance, those behaviours in themselves impact the team's performance. So, what are some of the key energizers and drainers do you think that leaders need to be really tuned into?
No, once again, really good question. I think if you're looking for the number one drainer, it's managing relationships within the work environment, managing relationships outside of home, because they take constant effort and energy to maintain. And the very simple analogy that I like to think of is if you think about relationships as a bucket with a hole in the bottom, in order to maintain that relationship, you have to keep that bucket topped up with attention, communication, thoughtfulness. It requires a lot of energy. The minute you stop doing that, the bucket drains out. So relationships would be the most significant drainer, and maintaining relationships with team members and your external stakeholders would be that most significant drainer.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And so in your experience, when it comes to how to, if you like, plug those holes in the bucket, make sure is it in a consistent way we as a leader are ensuring people's buckets are full. What do you think are those key strategies that leaders need to follow?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of research about formal systems, processes of reward recognition, etc. But I don't think we necessarily have to be that sophisticated in our thinking. Right at the top of the list, I would have make time to have fun. Muck around, silly conversations, wear a fun hat day. Just, find the opportunity to switch off from work, because work is very pressured. It's, everyone's under the pump these days. Workloads are going through the roof. We're having to deal with so much change and uncertainty. So to just have a release valve for that is a really good mechanism. That would be right at the top of the list. The second thing, interestingly and somewhat paradoxically, if you find time to help other people, it's surprisingly energizing for you. If you switch the focus away from all the things that are draining you and are problematic and start focusing on other people and listening to them and trying to support them, you will find yourself instantly more energized. And then at a more practical level, really simple things like take a 5-minute break, get a cup of tea, go outside, go for a walk, sit in the sunshine, just little things like that to create a circuit breaker for you. It helps you refocus on yourself and re-energize.
And interestingly, your first two, in turn, have a very direct influence on our relationships. So a part of, for example, the benefit of having fun in the workplace is actually the banter, it's the rapport, it's the unifying influence that can have. And as human beings, when we feel that deep sense of belonging, we're part of something, we're loved, we're respected. That in itself, I think, is why relationships are such a big energizer or a drainer. And then your third point there was taking us back to that your body's the starting point, because I totally agree. As a martial artist, I know that there's a massive link between the strength and vitality of my body and then my capacity for my mind to operate in ways that allow me to have successful emotion.
Well, I think we are hardwired to be socially connected. And you see, the reason solitary confinement is a punishment is it because you're cut away from other people, and that natural nurturing and energy you draw from other people is withdrawn from you. So, once again, if you're looking for a quick fix, pick up the phone, talk to someone, Zoom session if you can't go and see them, but connect with people and just talk to them is a quick energizer, particularly if you've got a good friend who can have a bit of a laugh at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what are the big no-nos, leaders in managing the spirit of their team? I think of the spirit of a team as really the strength of energy reserve that we have at any given point in time. What are some of the things that leaders need to make sure they address that are massive drainers?
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things they actually have to address, and often they relate to the culture within the team, the culture within the organisation. But can I say one thing? If you're going to be a leader and a manager and you're looking to take care of others and make sure they're okay and make sure their energy is good, rule number one is look after yourself as the leader and the manager. The reason in the plane you put the mask on yourself is that so you can help others. And I'm hearing from a lot of people during COVID at the moment, a lot of managers and leaders who literally are running around taking care of everyone else, making sure they've got technology at home, making sure their mental health is okay. And they should do all of those things. But then they're shocked when they just collapse in a heap, FFS. So, the first rule is look after yourself. But then in terms of actually the team and engaging others and making them energized, one of the other problems we have as managers and leaders is that we're hardwired and programmed to find what's not working. Where is a team not performing? Where is a system not right? How can we improve things? And in a way, that's good. But if we switch that around and start practicing grateful thinking, so rather than checking the team in terms of all the things that are not working, all the things we need to do, just express gratitude for the good work that's done and for the effort that people make. And once again, it's an instant energizer. And the second that I would think would be really, really important is, I've got a technical term for this, just be honest about the crap. Talk about the things that are challenging and frustrating and annoying everyone, and put it all on the table. Be transparent about it. Express your own frustrations as a leader and your own aspirations, and let people express their own feelings and emotions too. It's a really good clearinghouse for that.
Yeah.
And
And
within
it's
that,
about real, isn't it? Yeah. That authentic leadership, that willingness to be vulnerable myself. But also, I think what's key in what you've said there is we need to accept reality as a starting point. It's when we rail against reality that we can be extremely frustrated and in turn clearly drained. Fantastic. So Warren, please go on.
No, the very, very last one there, just in terms of, because it is the critical component of making your team engaged and energized. Somewhere you need to allow people the opportunity to express who they are and what matters to them, so that you can understand them at a deeper level. And going back to that reward and recognition piece, you just have to get that message across to people that they matter to you and that they're valuable and their work is valuable as the number one message, time and time and time again.
Yeah, I'm on your side. We're in this together. Absolutely. Okay. Warren, that's been brilliant advice yet again. Really appreciate you sharing that with our viewers. Before we let you go, we're going to share this week's WTF at work with you and tap into your wise counsel around this. So we'll bring that up now. So when I was hired, my boss promised that I would be making a very large salary by the new year. Although the starting salary was less than I wanted, I took the job based on his promise. Over the next 2 months, it became apparent that his promise might not be kept. When I confronted him, he said, "I tried to get that raise for you, but the board won't allow it. Why then did you quote me a figure that you weren't authorised to give?" I asked. He said, "When I made you the offer, I quoted you the salary that I wished you could get."
Wow, that's unbelievable. My immediate response as that person would be, well, perhaps I should just perform at the level that you're paying me now. That's the position in terms of money. Well, I'm going to give you what I think that money is worth. And if that's not enough, then there's another conversation to be had. But seriously, you have to pay people what they're worth, take money off the table, then they'll perform for you. Seriously.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's completely disrespectful. Absolutely. Yeah. And what really stands out in my mind as well is that leaders' complete lack of personal accountability. Because really what I'm trying to say there is, oh, well, I care. I wished for it, Yes. I was wishing on a star that, this would miraculously happen. But it's a classic, not my fault, the board won't allow it, it's my desire, which clearly is pretty weak leadership.
Why don't you take a pay cut and send some of that money to me, and then we're happy days. That's would be one way that you're really trying.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Warren, for sharing your as well as obviously energy. Remind our viewers how they can find you and tap into your fabulous advice.
You can find me on Lixivium Consulting, which is www.lixivium.com.au.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you again.
All right.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Liv Dowling to talk more about how you can manage your own energy levels and, in turn, the people that you lead.
There are now more ways to watch Ticker. Download our apps for Apple and Android devices. We're live on Twitter and YouTube Live. And you can catch us on Amazon Alexa and Google Home. Head to the Ticker website for more. From Ticker, this is Black Belt Leader. Here's Karen Gately.
Welcome back to Black Belt Leader. We're joined next by Liv Dowling. Liv is our regular psychologist who joins us to talk about all things the mind and its influence on our performance. Liv, welcome back.
Hello, Karen.
Great to see you.
Great to see you. I'm sad not to be in the studio with you.
It's a lot of the Melbourne lot's life, isn't it? Victorians' life at the moment. But yeah, absolutely. Still grateful to have the opportunity to connect via technology. And, you know, we were obviously just talking to Warren about why this matters, you know, in the workplace, what some of those energizers and drainers are. I thought we could start with you to deep dive more into the link between our mind and, you know, why our mind plays such an important role in our energy levels and what we can do about that.
Such an important thing to talk about. And, you know, I was reflecting before today and really considering what role the mind plays in helping us manage our energy. And what I'm about to say is probably quite a hard thing for some of us to hear. Because I actually believe that our mind plays 100% of the role in managing our energy. Unfortunately, our life doesn't dictate our energy levels. It's our perception and our interpretation of life that dictates our energy levels. So our mind really is the intermediary, if you like. And the way we experience our life is moderated by our interpretations, our perceptions, and the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I often think of it as, or describe it as, the filter through which we perceive all of our reality. And when our mind is struggling, well, then good luck and may the force be with you, because, you know, to get an accurate perception of reality, to choose the emotions that are actually energizing and helpful becomes incredibly difficult. So help us to understand, you know, what can we do to give our mind a chance of, you know, again, influencing the right energy outcomes?
So, you know, I think it's a really important thing for us all to acknowledge that it's not our fault that we are the way we are. We have a certain mind that is a result of the causes and conditions we've experienced throughout our life. So that's genetics, early childhood experiences, but it is absolutely our responsibility. So I think the first step is really about our attitude. So it's about really accepting responsibility and accountability for our experiences. The reality, Karen, as you know, is that these thoughts and emotions are going to arrive on our doorstep. Sometimes, you know, we can't really control what comes through our mind. The opportunity we have is how we respond once we find ourselves faced with these thoughts and emotions. You know, and a simple tool that I share with my clients is, it's a mindfulness-based tool, and it comes from ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. And it's really, you know, as I've said to you before, we are not our thoughts. So the tool is, when we notice ourselves having recurring thoughts that might be draining on our energy, or we're ruminating about past mistakes, because we all make mistakes, an easy tip is to say, I'm having the thought that.
Yeah.
And what we're doing when we create that little space is we're actually accessing a different part of our brain. We're stepping out of our reptilian brain, which is often responsible for our emotions, and we're stepping into our prefrontal cortex, which is the more evolved part of our brain. So an example for you, because we all learn best through examples, is the very first time I did an interview with you. And I kept on having the thought, oh gosh, I stuffed it up. I was too passionate. I was too energetic. And so I was able to use the tools that I have, saying, oh, I'm having the thought that I stuffed up that interview. And what that allowed me to do is break that cycle of shame that so many of us find ourselves in. We find ourselves in these thought loops. You know, I buggered up the interview. I feel the shame that sits in my body, which feeds the feelings, which feeds the thoughts, and it just keeps going round and round. So a really useful tool is saying, I'm having the thought that. I'm
Yeah.
not a good girlfriend, boyfriend. I'm having the thought that I might lose my job. I'm having
Yeah.
the thought that my boss doesn't like me. So it
Yeah.
creates some separation.
Yeah. And what I love about that is often what I find in the workplace, the conversations I'm having with people is around where's your evidence? And I love this, where people have invested heavily in a certain reality and they've decided that they're not trusted, they're not respected, or they're on their way out, or whatever the case may be. And,
Yep.
So asking someone, well, where is your evidence that you're going to fail? Where is your evidence that that's likely? Often they aren't able to actually point to anything. It's just a feeling that they've chosen and a belief that they've adopted. So I love that. Separate yourself from it, see the thinking, and then you can have more chance. So, clearly it can be especially difficult to stay in that right part of our brain or the more helpful part of our brain when we're super tired. What impact does our body have on our mind's capacity to serve us faithfully?
Oh, such a great question. So, when I was a baby psychologist in my early days of practice, I really thought it was all about the mind and the brain and that we could think ourselves through situations and difficulties. But I now know with age and wisdom and experience that the mind body connection is alive and real. And looking after our bodies in order to energize us is so important. And there is no one silver bullet. There's no one right way. But what we do know is that by looking after our bodies, we are likely to have a healthier and happier mind. One of the ways we can do that is through physical exercise, through even if we don't feel like it, even if we're feeling tired and demotivated, doing some physical exercise. The research tells us 20 to 30 minutes a day is really important for us humans, and so many of us working from home at the moment, we're not getting that incidental exercise. So a lot of the things I'm talking with my clients about at the moment is getting out and moving our bodies and getting those endorphins and really getting our body to work for our mental health.
Yeah. I can certainly quickly share a personal story the other day of knowing there was a part of me that just knew I had to leave the house, go for the family walk with the dogs. Really didn't want to. And it just drew on some of those martial arts days of just do it anyway, and just made an announcement to the whole family that I was unlikely to be happy about it, that I was just going to tag along at the back and just force myself to do this. And of course, within moments of the walk, we're having fun, we're having a laugh, my energy shifted, my mindset shifted, and now my mind has some chance of actually doing something more productive or constructive for the rest of the day. So Liv, thank you so much again for sharing that wisdom. Remind, our viewers, obviously you do a lot of work in the mindfulness space and, helping people to really connect with that mind and get some influence on their mind. Remind our viewers how they can find you and get in touch.
Thanks, Karen. So they can find me at livemindfully.com, which is my website. So it's live as in my name, live without an E. And I really love doing workshops and seminars with schools and organisations. Obviously, they're all remote at the moment. And I'm finding a lot of my clients are really interested in learning not just about mindfulness, but more integrated approaches to helping us all manage our mental health. So looking at the body and the mind and the heart. So that's where I'm really focusing a lot of my energy at the moment, because that's where the need is. I'm also in private practice counselling psychology at the Talking Cure in South Yarra in Melbourne.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. As I say, I really do appreciate your contribution today, but also your participation as part of the Black Belt Leader team. We'll see you again soon.
Wonderful. Take care.
Thank you. So that's all we have today. Hopefully you've taken some really valuable tips on how you can make sure that you're managing your own energy levels and influencing the vitality and fuel that your team have and need in order to be at their best. Remember, if you would like us to work through a topic, don't be shy, get in touch by any of our social media channels or, of course, our website at corporatedojo.com. And remember, you choose, will you be an ordinary or an awesome leader of your people? Thanks for joining us.
There are now more ways to watch Ticker. Download our apps for Apple and Android devices. We're live on Twitter and YouTube Live. And you can catch us on Amazon Alexa and Google Home. Head to the Ticker website for more. Community has been hit hard by the impacts of coronavirus, but with it comes opportunity too. Ticker brings you the latest information and interviews with startup founders about how to survive and ways to grow. Head to the Ticker website or download the Ticker apps.